Well, hello. Happy to be here and happy Thanksgiving to you, and trust that you have had a joyous meal and that you've been surrounded by family and friends and that it has been a blessed day for you. I've been thinking about Thanksgiving today, thinking about Thanksgiving in terms of what it means, what its foundation is, and how that is reflected in our natural aquarium. Now, there's a thought. Thanksgiving in a natural aquarium. I thought about changing the title to something in that respect, but decided not to. Thought I might get a few more or less people in if I didn't. Nevertheless, it strikes me that the fundamentals of Thanksgiving are of a people who believed themselves to be in unity, bonded by their mutual faith, living in a promised land full of hope, a place where their dreams could actually be brought alive, with neighbors who were at least friendly, allowing them to live out their ambitions, their dreams, their visions for a better world, a better society, a better way of living. That was the beginning. And that vision remained throughout the whole period of the colonies for 300 years, 300 years, nearly, well, let's say 200 anyway, until well into the establishment, our establishment as a nation, our creation as a nation. And in some ways remains so today. Although I believe today we are suffering a brokenness that will be very difficult to repair, if indeed it can be repaired. And I don't think the final chapter has been written on that. Unity, the unity of the people in their desire to live together in harmony, respecting each other, regardless of their differences in viewpoints and attitudes and values, allowing independence, personal freedom to the degree that it does not infringe upon the personal freedom and dignity of others. That's the nature of the freedom that we determined. Now, in order to manifest that, in order to make that viable, the founders of our nation, utter geniuses all, many far more advanced educationally than a preponderance of citizens are today. Deeply devout people with a variety of belief systems. They were not even all Christian in any traditional sense, but they shared a common set of beliefs. Beliefs in the dignity of the individual and in the critical importance of building a government, a governing society that acknowledged the dignity and the value and the independence of each individual. And so they created this republic, not as a democracy, because it is explicitly not a democracy. In a democracy, all power goes to those in charge. By our Constitution, power is bifurcated, it is sectioned off in different branches. And those branches are co equal with each other. And so one does not have authority over the other, they function individually. And so there is a tension created in the very creation and the very establishment of government, a tension in the locus of power. I want to draw this out far enough to then be able to take a look at our aquarium and see just how the parallels are so critical. Where we are today is in a struggle. It's a struggle between a structure created to permit a maximum of individualism, of individual autonomy, and recognition that under the law, all people, all citizens are equal to each other. We are in conflict between that vision and the vision of all power, autocratic power, power centered on an individual or a group of individuals who maintain their power by virtue of democratic principles, much as China maintains its power based on democratic principles. You see, the founders deeply and bitterly opposed any form of democracy because democracy places the the rights of the individual at the very bottom of the social structure. And they wanted to place those rights at the very top. The only way to do that was to break down the absolute authority of the majority. For so long as the majority are in absolute power, there are no rights beyond those given by that body of those in power. Our Constitution explicitly precludes that from happening. And this is the struggle we're in today. I do not believe that the struggle is between those who are deeply base deeply ingrained in our Constitution, and those who are opposed to it? Well, there have been comments made about a living Constitution. I do not believe that it is the intention of those who believe that to, in fact, overthrow the Constitution. Rather, they perceive that it, by virtue of the amendments to our Constitution, that it needs to apply to our current age. And so there's that level of conflict. But let's look at our aquarium. The aquarium, the natural aquarium, exists as a unity, as a unified body of life. Now, that's not to say that every aspect of that body of life is in love with, with every other aspect. It clearly is not. There are arch enemies among them. There are those who eat each other. Yet they do not eat each other to the point of extinction. There is a permission to survive and to thrive. And the deeper you go into the dynamics of life in that aquarium, when you get down to the bacterial level and the hormonal level, you see that there is a harmony that is virtually absolute, in which plants and animals at this deepest level are working in harmony with each other. The plants release hormones that trigger bacteria to create the very nutrients that the plants require. That level of harmony. Oh, to be sure, there are microfauna that eat other microfauna. But again, they do not eat each other to extinction, or they would starve. Rather, their populations are controlled by the availability of nutrition, by the availability of their prey, if you will. And so there's a balance that occurs. And when that balance is allowed to be to be established and to sustain itself, it maintains itself for long periods of time, virtually indefinitely. There are waves, there's a sine wave, SINE, a sine wave that occurs in which certain populations decrease while others increase, but never one becoming so dominant that all the others fall prey to it. If that were to occur, everything would collapse and it would cease to function. In other words, there is no one single element in that aquarium that exists for the sole purpose of destroying every other element, every other life form in the aquarium. Were there to be such a monster, why, either it would have to be put down or it would destroy everything. So, is this where we're at today? Do we have a conflict in our society so dire and so deep that one side seeks to absolutely destroy the other? Indeed, that one group seeks to have absolute dominance over all of society? Both sides claim that's true. And they war with each other over that very issue. Now, to the extent that it is not true of either of the parties, and their warring against each other maintains a balance, so long as that's true, then I guess we're okay. It's not a happy place to be. We're not in the kind of harmonious relationship perhaps we would like to be. But nevertheless, we coexist by virtue of our inability of one to destroy the other utterly. And that's likely the case. There are, of course, dangerous exceptions to this. And the exceptions are murder. We have seen in recent months, indeed over the last year, murder done as politics. That is more than dangerous. That is a threat to the very existence of our society. When we murder each other over political differences, differences of thought, differences of ideas, then we are in the most dangerous territory and are on the precipice of being released into absolute violence. There is, I believe, in our society, a hard headedness that needs to be modified. Now, I stand on one side of this political rift, but that was not always true. 40 years ago, I stood on the other side. 50 years ago, I stood on the other side of this political rift. Indeed, I remember my attitude toward Ronald Reagan was that he was diabolical. I no longer believe that, but I did. And I know what brought me to that position. I was never, however, utterly radicalized. My involvement in the 60s in the SDS and the anti-war protest movement came to a head when I discovered that the primary funding for those organizations, and especially for the SDS, was the American Communist Party. I saw it firsthand. I knew where the checks were coming from because I was on the inside of that organization in Boston, where the cornerstone of the organization was laid, and where its primary funding was sourced. And that's when I left. And that began a journey back from the chaos of the 60s. That was a long road, a long, long road back. But I did come back from it. I remember it. I remember it clearly. And I do not want to take the position that it was purely emotional, because it was not. It was ideological. It was philosophical. And it was based, to the best of my understanding of myself and of my own thinking, on the deepest respect for humanitarian concerns. Nevertheless, it depicted those who I opposed as less than honest, less than ethical, and less than principled people. And I find myself now on the opposite side of that argument with exactly the same set of perceptions, knowing full well that those perceptions are held by both sides. There is a disrespect, an open hostility, a bitterness, an anger, a frustration, and a hatred in our society, brother to brother, father to son, neighbor to neighbor. We are all about the business of destroying ourselves and each other, and we stand at the precipice. It's easy to point the finger. It's easy to say, but look what they're doing, because what they're doing is malicious. It's evil. Are we not guilty of the same evil, of the same denigration, of the same commitment to our own position as absolute authority, and the position of our enemies as derelict and corrupt? So we are at war with each other. And it is a bitter struggle, and it will not end well if it persists. So back to our aquarium. If our approach to maintaining an aquarium is to pour toxins in whenever we see something going wrong, then we're throwing poison into the entire system. It is amazing to me how often people lose every single fish they have because they kill them all. They kill them by trying to do the right thing, which is inevitably, invariably, the wrong thing to do. Nature teaches us that harmony is the guiding principle of the universe. It is the fundamental law by which all things exist, and especially all things on this earth. Oh, to be sure, there are calamities. To be sure, there are thunderbolts out of the blue. There are magma pours. There have been floods. There are tornadoes. There are eruptions. There is any manner of destruction that does occur. But it is not sufficient to stop the harmony that builds and grows and that creates this foundation that no amount of destruction can break asunder. it remains inextricably bound in harmony. So, is this a lesson that we can learn? Is this something that can bring us back to our senses? Is this a principle that we can apply? I don't know. I don't know because to apply it requires all parties to agree to it. And we can see even in our little community here, not all parties are agreeable to the nature of our aquariums. There are those who will never put a chemical in their tank, God forbid. There are others who will only put chemicals in their tank. Does this mean we are at war with each other? Perhaps a better way to view it, because the aquarium itself is our test tube. It is our little piece of nature that we experiment with, that we try to learn about and learn from, and learn to direct and to channel and to maintain. And so, in one sense, it doesn't matter how many fish we kill, so long as we learn eventually to stop killing them. We can't take that principle into the real world because we can't allow that level of destruction to go on, although it seems to be. It does seem to be. So I don't have answers to all of this. Simply an old man's statement of the problem, which probably is more bemusing than informative. But I'll leave you with that. My thoughts this Thanksgiving. And let's jump into, that was a half an hour rant. Let's jump into the chat and see who's here and see what everyone's talking about. Let's see, the best way I can do this probably is to go into YouTube and put it in the live chat, and then just kind of scroll down. Let's see. By the way, you're in my home. Welcome to my home. Nice to have you all here. Let's see. Early as heck, happy Thanksgiving, Father Fish. Hi, Father Fish, happy Thanksgiving. Fish Sam Link, Super Sunfish, Neil C. Vids, West Virginia Holla Girl, Sailor Ed was on Discord earlier. Folks giving their fish special meals, funny. Happy Thanksgiving Eve from someone in China or Japan, don't know which. Kimini, Fish Sam Link, Adam Armbruster, thank you, Adam. Welcome. Christian B, good evening, Lou. Well, good evening, Christian. God bless America, says Adam. All the good old names are here, says Sailor Red. Yes, indeed. Sailor Red Christian, Sutton Road Aquatics. Let's see, let's give Sutton Road can we do it? Give him a wrench. Yes, we can. Let's do that. George, the Lord showed you the truth, says Kimini. Show some love by liking the video and subscribing. Father Fish teaches to do less. Retail stores teach do lots. Thank you, Adam. Black Friday sale is happening now. Oh, the Black Friday sale is amazing. We've had in the first 12 hours, I think we've had 25 orders, which is, we're hoping for 100 orders. At what age does sticks and fans kick in? Sailor Ed. At what age does sticks and sticks and stones, sticks and fans? Don't know. I don't know that there's an age. I don't know that it ever does. Hello, Gina Bobina. Something rude. Thank you, Father Fish. Well, let's see. That ain't a lot. That's everybody here. What do we got? We've got see how many folks are in here. 27. 27 watching. And get back over into the studio. Be placing an order. Can I order roseline sharks from you? We're not shipping fish yet. We still haven't nailed that down. My big problem with shipping fish is I don't want to ship them USPS because I don't want them sitting in a box for 5 days. And too often that happens. Plants can survive it, fish cannot. The exceptions are bettas, and I can certainly do bettas, but I would rather be able to do more. We've pretty well got the packaging down. We know how we're going to do that. We're trying to get a line on UPS second day air flat rate. They will not insure perishables, but we don't need them insured if they're going to be delivered in 2 days. If they arrive DOA, then we'll cover them, but that will be a very rare experience. I've shipped a lot of fish in the past, but it was years ago. It was through the post office when they were dependable, when I could get them delivered in 2 days dependably, 3 days at the outset. Can't do that anymore, not dependably. So I really can't. I can't depend on using the post office as a shipper for fish. I do really want to be able to do fish. We're hopefully we'll get an answer soon about the UPS flat rate second day air. It's going to cost a little bit more, but if we reserve that for fish, then I think we'll be in good shape. Oh, fix my profile name now. You can say it easier, Kimini. Kimini. Thank you, Kim. Is it a battle between good and evil? I think we want it to be a battle between good and evil, but I don't think we know the difference, frankly. I think each side is guilty of good and guilty of evil. And I believe that evil is in the disrespect we show for our adversaries. If we're going to be a unified people, we must be a unified people. We can have our differences, but there must be mutual respect. Without that, we are simply enemies fighting and at war with each other. And I believe very deeply that this is a struggle that is imposed upon us by those who would seek to break us down for their own power, to maintain and establish their own authority. In other words, I think in many ways the the political struggle we're involved in is fabricated. Not utterly, but certainly is fabricated. We have no reason to be at war with each other. We can live in harmony if we choose to. Our differences are not so extreme uh, that we will not permit each other to have our separate lifestyles, as long as we do not insist upon imposing them upon each other. And this, of course, is the claim that both sides make against each other. And so we're caught fighting a shadow war very often with ourselves. Somehow we need to wake up. Somehow we need to throw off the shackles of the hate mongers who are imposing their vision upon us and seek a higher vision. But we need to do this together. We need to do this as a unified people. So who is to be the unifier? Well, good question. Who indeed is to be the unifier? You see, it cannot come from on top. It has to come from the bottom and rise up. It has to be from among us, we the people. We the people must determine the society we choose to live in and not allow it to simply be imposed upon us by those who want to see us in conflict with each other. We seek to establish the dignity of our fellow man, and especially those whom we consider the most undignified of all. If there is to be freedom, it must include the freedom to be, if you will, undignified. If we can do that much, just that much, and simply grant the right of people to live as they choose to live, and my right, my right. There's the problem. The minute I begin talking about my rights, then I'm imposing on someone else. My rights are to remain private to me, exclusive to me. They're mine, after all. They're not yours or anyone else's. They're mine. And it is up to me then to find my way in this world, as I've done. I'm 85. I've been doing it a long time. And I found myself in some very strange places along the way. I've been very high. I've been very low. I've been wealthy. I've been broke. And by wealthy, I mean wealthy. I've been worth millions, more than once. And I've been broke nearly through it all. And I guess what's happened to me finally at 85 is that I don't get emotional about anything. I just don't. I don't feel emotion I'm not driven by my feelings, by my gut. And maybe that's because my hormones are worn out. I don't know. But there's a lot of freedom in it, and there's a lot of sadness in it. And there's mostly a lot of isolation in it because I realize how utterly alone I am, and ultimately how utterly alone all of us are. You see, we need each other to be in harmony, to be in that warm, affectionate, loving kind of relationship that makes it possible for us to even survive. Kindness, decency, warmth, gentleness, persuasiveness when necessary, and to not allow oneself to become so discombobulated that I have to raise my voice to be heard. Hmm. It's difficult to avoid that, particularly when there is such a predilection in our society for just that. We want to scream at each other, and it's hard not to scream back, but it doesn't help. It doesn't solve any problems. Oh, well, let's see what else is here. Snow flurries in West Virginia, mercy. Chloe says, hi, Father Fish, I haven't. Okay. Stella Red. So Kim spent the night in my truck on Mount Storm in West Virginia after one of your flurries. Whoa. I spent the night in my truck on Mount Storm in West Virginia after a West Virginia flurry. Yeah, I was in the mountains in Kentucky for a number of years while I was in college. It was uh, it was unique. Not a lot of bad snowstorms there, but we did get snow on the ground. The elite divide and conquer humanity. They work at it. They work at it. They do. They do indeed. That's their true enemy. If we can figure out who they are unreachable. They make themselves such. I saw a picture today. It was entitled Ultimate Wealth. And it was a picture of a house in the middle of a vast forest, just a house in a huge 1,000-acre forest with no roads leading in. Ultimate wealth, ultimate separation, ultimate isolation. Hmm. Strange kind of wealth, isn't it? To have everything you could ever want, except neighbors, neighbors, friends, even family. At the end of the day, I think we all want the right to live our own lives on our own terms. I believe that's true, Jennifer. We need to get over the paranoia of believing that others are trying to infringe upon that. And simply be about the business of living your own lives without insisting someone else has to do something to make it possible. If your life is so dependent on the will of someone else, then you're not free. If you can live your life as an independent, genuinely free person, then you don't need to scream and holler about it. You don't need to get indignant over it because you already have it. Now, if your goal is to control others, well, that's a whole other matter, isn't it? Then you're really not being independent. You're trying to make others dependent upon you. And that doesn't work very well either. Here's the thing I think there's a madness about being human. One of the things that has struck me recently, in looking back at my life and the various personas that I have experienced and lived through, I'm a lot of different people. I've been a lot of different people in a lot of different times and a lot of different places. And I've always thought of myself as one person with one set of feelings and thoughts, but I'm not. I have many different thoughts, have had many different ideas about existence, about who I am. I've experienced myself as self assured and as utterly lacking in any confidence at all, as mature and wise, and as the most immature possible. I've been, and in many ways, I think we pick and choose who we're going to be, what we're going to be. The hard part is sticking to it. And that's not easy. I don't know. I look forward to heaven. I do. I look forward to the stability of the heavenly realms, of the peace of love that passes all understanding, because I know that's what it is. I have experienced that. I know that with certainty. That is one truth that is at the core of my being. That is absolute truth that I do not question and cannot question because I know it to be true. And so there's no fear of dying. There's only the knowledge that I will. And I wonder sometimes why I'm still here. Don't really know. I kind of enjoy it. I mean, I enjoy this, what I'm doing right now, which is a kind of insanity because I'm sitting here talking to myself. But then I've always talked to myself. Time I was a little kid, I've been talking to myself. This is perfect for me. I get to chatter away, and some few among you think it worth listening to, which is itself a joyous conceit. Yeah, I will. How we doing? We got about 10 minutes. At the end of the day, I think we all want the right to live our own lives on our own terms. Yes, indeed, Jennifer. We need to be smarter than the manipulators. Well, that's the trick, isn't it? We need to know they're there. I think that's what's important. If we know they're there, then we can avoid their entrapments. We can avoid their snares. You know, the wild animal is not always smarter than the trapper. He just sees the trap more easily than the trapper believes he does. And so he avoids the snares We need to learn to avoid the snares and to keep the chemicals out of our tank. Keep the toxins away. Too many toxins. Avoid toxins at all costs. There's the lesson. There's the aquarium lesson. Avoid toxins, for God's sake. Maybe vote for people with integrity, certainly, certainly. Our Creator, well, amen to that. I guess if there is one absolute in my life, in my experience, it is the presence, the existence, the knowledge of God. And while there certainly are those who have not come to that place, well, that's allowed. You need to find your own way. You can't simply accept what someone else says on faith as though that's the final word. You can't do that. You've got to find the Creator. You have to come to a personal relationship. I was blessed with that very, very early on in my life. I was about 5 years old when I first experienced the presence of God in my life in a way that was undeniable. And so I lived my whole life with that knowledge. Not everyone has, and I've been especially blessed, I think. It has made of my life something rather strange, however, that I can't really explain. But I know I know I don't belong here. I know this is not my home because I will leave sooner than later. Might be another 10 years. I like to think so. I like to think I'll break the 120 rule, but there is not any likelihood of that, I suppose. I've got so many things wrong with my body that my spirit overcomes routinely. But ultimately, my spirit will decide it ain't worth the effort anymore and depart to other worlds. So shall we all. And I wish only to see you there, that we may be together for an absolute eternity. I've made so many friends in my life. So many friends. Nearly all I have little or no contact with. My very best friend I haven't spoken to in months and months and months. But I know we'll be together. I know it is not the end. I know it is not the end. Nor is it a new beginning. But it is a continuation in a realm far different from this place of chaos. The chaos I believe we bring upon ourselves with our sense of injustice, with our weakness, with our foolishness, with our anger, with our emotions. They're stupid ideas and their emotions. Were it were not so, but it is. So I leave you with this. avoid the toxins. Avoid the toxins, and all shall be well. Love you all. Bye for now.